Yo, what is good YouTube? I'm Richie Kim, and today I'm going to be bringing you all the performance review on Damian Lillard's 8th signature sneaker with Adidas, the Dame. Before we get started, if you all enjoy sneaker content just like this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below, and also hit that bell notification button for me so you never miss another video just like this. But anyways, let's get right into it. As always, starting off with the traction, the Dame 8 features a modified herringbone traction pattern for the most part, and then scattered around the outer of the outsole, you do have like this lightning bolt shape. And let me tell you, the traction on here is okay. Honestly, it gets a little bit weird, and I'll try to explain as best as I can. If you are playing on your clean courts though, you really should have no issues whatsoever. You should be able to stop pretty much on a dime, honestly. And yeah, you know, the traction on clean courts is really good. However, if you are playing on your mildly dusty to really dusty courts, the best way I can explain it is, if you're doing a lot of hard lateral movements, like I'm saying, you know, you're going at full speed and then you plant that foot to do like a crossover or a step back or anything like that, that's where you run into issues of kind of like sliding out a little bit. And I'm not exactly sure why. But if you are doing, you know, crossovers and setbacks when you're not going at full speed, you know, just doing like a quick one, you won't really have any issues. Like, that's when I didn't have any issues and I stopped really well, even on, you know, dusty courts. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think it really just depends on like how much torque you're really putting into the shoe in that movement. And that's what affected it, at least laterally, because linearly, the stopping power was always good regardless of, you know, clean court or dusty court. You will have a consistent stop for those linear movements. One thing to note though is, if you are playing on your dustier courts, make sure you do wipe, because this thing does pick up dust. But the great news is it's just a quick wipe and then you're good to go for at least a few plays. So just keep that in mind. You will have to wipe, and I guess like the lateral traction issue really just depends on how much torque you're putting into that one movement. Besides that, you know, I thought the traction was overall pretty good. It's just a slight learning curve to figure out when I guess like the traction is going to slip out on you, and it really just depends on how much force you're putting into the shoe at that moment. So moving on to the cushion setup, the Dame 8 features a new cushion setup. It's called Bounce Pro, and to me, I felt like the Bounce Pro was pretty good. Apparently this is supposed to be a dual density foam setup, and so what I'm gonna guess is this purple part is a different density foam than this green part right here. And you know, I thought it was pretty good. In the heel, you do actually get a lot of compression. You get pretty good impact protection, whereas up in the forefoot, obviously, as you can see, it thins out quite a bit. So it's definitely a lot more firm, you know, responsive cushion up there. But in my opinion, at least compared to the Dame 7, I actually like this Bounce Pro setup a lot more than the Light Strike setup. It just feels, I don't know, something about it feels more fluid, I guess. And another thing about this Bounce Pro setup is, because it's a dual density, I don't think it'll bottom out as quickly as Light Strike, because Light Strike did bottom out pretty quickly. But I guess we'll just find out over time. But overall, yeah, you know, I really like the Bounce Pro setup in the shoe. You get good impact protection in the heel. It feels very nice. And then up in the forefoot, you do get that core feel responsiveness without sacrificing like a lot of impact protection. So yeah, overall, the cushion setup in the Dame 8 was really good. So moving on to the materials, the Dame 8 features pretty much an entire mesh upper, and I would say it's a pretty decent mesh as well. And then on top of the mesh in high wear areas, you are going to have like these basically like fuse overlays with some stitching around it, just for added durability. So right here on the lateral side of the toe box, you have that fuse, and then on the medial side as well, you have this fuse here as well. As you move towards the middle of the shoe, you do have like another textile with additional fuse overlays, and then in the back you do have more mesh, and then another like textile material right here where the Dame badge is placed. And then on the tongue, you do have an open aired mesh. It is decently padded, definitely not over padded or anything like that. I would definitely say it's more on the minimal side, but it's definitely enough to, you know, protect your feet from the laces if you do like to crank your laces down. Overall, you know, the materials on the Dame 8, it's definitely nothing like too premium, but I wouldn't expect too premium of materials because of the price point. But in terms of the performance, it gets the job done just fine. So overall, I would say that the material usage on the Dame 8 is actually pretty good. So moving on to the fit, I would say that the Dame 8 does run a half size big. So whatever you normally wear, go down a half size and you all should be good to go. I'm a slightly wide footer and I did go down a half size and I was perfectly fine. Compared to the Dame 7, I would say that the Dame 8 is definitely more of a wide foot friendly shoe. In the Dame 7, I did have tightness up in the forefoot area, whereas in the Dame 8, I almost had no tightness at all. So they may have widened it up, or maybe it's just this particular shoe, I'm not sure. But yeah, you know, as a slightly wide footer, I did go down a half size and it was perfectly fine. No pressure, no pain at all. If you are extreme wide footers, my advice would to be, you know, just go try it on in store if possible. If not, you may want to go true to size because you may have some issues. But me, as a slightly wide footer, I didn't have any issues at all, which is really, really nice. I didn't have any dead space up in the toe box area, and I felt like the materials do lie very nicely on my feet. And then in the back here, you do actually have like this additional padding right here. I'm not exactly sure why they did that, but I guess it does, you know, add for more cushion and a better fit. So yeah, overall the fit in the Dame 8 was really good. So moving on to the support, I had absolutely zero issues with the support in this shoe. You do have an internal heel counter with this additional, like, I guess Achilles cushioning right here. So my heel was not slipping, it didn't move around. I didn't have any issues with the heel. I didn't have any side to side movement on the footbed. I do believe that you sit inside this foam here just a little bit, so that does help with the movement on the footbed, and the materials also do a great job as well. And then in terms of the lateral movements, you won't be rolling over. I would say that this base is fairly wide, and you can kind of see that this midsole does actually form an outrigger, so you're covered on that front as well. In terms of the torsional rigidity and stability, I'm not sure if there's a shank plate in here, but I would say this is fairly rigid. I can't really twist and turn it too much outside of this. Overall, the support in the Dame 8 pretty much has everything that you want and nothing that you don't. The support in the Dame 8 was perfectly fine for me. So the Dame 8 retails for $120, and for $120, I would say that this is a solid pickup. You know, the only real issue for me is the traction. Just like I said before, you know, on those lateral movements, depending on how much force you're putting into it, you could end up sliding. But the more force you put into it, the more chances of sliding happened. Whereas if you're doing just like a quick jab step or a quick crossover or anything like that, you know, you pretty much fine and you stuck very well. So I'm not exactly sure what the issue is with that. Maybe a different colored outsole or maybe a translucent outsole, you know, will perform better and you won't have those issues at all. But just from my perspective, from my experience, that's what happened to me. You know, if you all have played in the Dame 8, please let me know if you've had that experience happen to you as well, because I'm really, really curious. It is really weird, and I don't think I've ever had a shoe where this has happened like that before. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Outside of that, everything else was perfectly fine. Now, this was a really fun shoe to play in. So yeah, you know, outside of that traction issue, awesome shoe. I would say definitely go pick up a pair if you wanted to. I'll leave a link in the description box down below if you all are interested in buying a pair of these. That's pretty much it for this performance review. If you all like this video, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below, and also hit that bell notification button so you never miss another video just like this. Also, please hit the thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. Also, check out this video on my left and on my right, and that's pretty much it. Till next time, peace.